of the Arctic Crafts podcast. My name is Bente and I'm coming to you from Vesterålen, northern Norway, where I live with my husband and 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Arctic Crafts, on Etsy and Facebook as Arctic Crafts by Bente, and on Ravelry as Arctic Crafts 65. And while I was doing my introduction, you could see somebody behind me. He might show up again because he's lying on the kitchen counter right behind me. Maybe I should say something else about... I wasn't completely finished with my introduction. I'm a complete scatterbrain. I blame it on the outbreak and the social distancing and a tiny bit of cabin fever. I was going to tell you that you can find me on Ravelry in a group. It's called Arctic Crafts Podcast. You can find that group by searching the group tab on Ravelry and just type in Arctic Crafts and it will pop up. In that group I currently have 2 knit-alongs running. I have the year-long knit-along for Arctic Crafts yarn. If you knit anything with my yarn, you can enter it in the finished object thread for a chance for a prize. I do one prize drawing at the end of each quarter. I just did the prize drawing for the first quarter, and you can add things where you haven't used only my yarn. If you, for example, knit a sweater with my yarn as the contrast color, you're welcome to join. The other knit-along running at the moment is the 80s Kids Make-Along. And that is a make-along I'm running in collaboration with Chevyrell of Chevyrell Stuff and Beth of Shadows and Pearls. I'll be linking all these things in the description box below. And one more admin bit before we continue with the knitting. I have a Ko-fi page. And if you want to support me and my podcast, feel free to buy me a cup of coffee. That, of course, also is linked at the bottom of the page. And since this is a knitting podcast, maybe we should talk about some knitting. I'm not wearing any knitwear today, and I think the season for me wearing knitwear is finished because the wall on that side of me, that side of the house, is almost all windows, and when the sun is shining, this room gets really, really hot. It's a bright day outside and we've had lots of snow, and that was just typical because the streets were bare, and we of course had to have some more snow because it's April and why should we have spring? I mean, this is, after all, northern Norway, and there I have actually 2 cats behind me. I have Severus Snape on the counter. He jumped down, thankfully, before he managed to knock something to the floor. And then Harry is on top of his throne, cleaning himself. He's been out for a while today, even though it's snowing and it's windy, but as you can see, he's a long-haired forest cat, so he can tackle the temperatures. I'm not sure what's happening with my hair today. I need a haircut. And I guess loads of us need haircuts. The hairdressers in Norway, at least, were one of the first places to shut down. All professions where you have contact with the customers had to close down. So nail salons, hairdressers, physiotherapists, stuff like that. So I think I might need a haircut soon. They're talking about opening the schools for the smallest children on the 20th and the professional schools at the 27th, and that's pupils that need to be in school to use equipment and stuff like that. Hubby is not going back to work though, because he teaches subjects like geography and social sciences, so he's not needed back to work yet. Let's see what the government comes up with. The situation is not changed when it comes to shipping. I can ship all over the world except Canada. I've checked with the Norwegian Postal Service. Anything I shipped out for Canada the last days before the embargo is being stored in Oslo and gets shipped to Canada as soon as possible. As it is now, I can't even, they won't accept mail for Canada at the post office until the embargo is lifted. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted on Instagram when the embargo is lifted. I'll just put up a notification on Instagram. And then we talk about knitting. I have 2 FOs to show you, and they're both socks. The first one is these. I just had to knit some colorful socks, and you've seen these as a work in progress, and now they're finished. It's the Drippity Drop Socks by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears, and the yarn is Dina's Home of Crafts in the colorway Sunglasses Are Needed. I cast these on because I needed some color. I almost knocked my glasses off. And the other pair is a sample pair that I knit in my own colorway Vincent. And as you can see, one of the socks are a bit lighter than the other, and that's what happens sometimes with hand-dyed. And this pair is a sample pair, and I noticed when I skeined up the yarn that this skein was lighter on the inside than on the outside, so I decided, okay, I'll take this one myself and use it for a sample. So this is Vincent, sorry. This is the Gold Sport, and when I knit with sport weight yarn, I cast on 60 stitches and used 2.5 millimeter needles. And then knit up a bit faster because I only needed 54 rounds on the foot instead of the 64 I normally do when I knit with fingering weight. And those are my FOs. And I have 2 works in progress that you haven't seen. But I'll start with the one you have seen. And that's the Sirius Socks. The 12 i 20 knit along 12 in 20. And these are the April socks, and it's the Sirius Socks by Ninja Chickens. And last you saw them, I was about there on the leg. And I've turned the heel. I just did my normal German short row heel, and I've started the color work for the foot. I have small feet, so I'm interested to see if these are too big for me when I finish the pattern, because I have to use the entire pattern repeat, so these socks might be a bit too big for me, but I can always gift them. And this is knit with a Norwegian commercial yarn, Silja. Stash. All this is stash. When yarns like these are on sale, I buy several balls in different colors to have for small color work projects. So that's that. And the bag is from Busy Pottering. Unfortunately, she has closed her Etsy store, but fortunately I have a few of her bags, and I'm going to treat them extremely carefully because I want to keep them as they are. So that's the Sirius Socks. And then I have 2 more projects that you haven't seen. The first is it's basically a sample because it's knit with only my yarn, but I think this is one I'm going to use. It's the Solaris by oh my god, I have to check. Melanie Berg. It's from the book I showed you last time. It's also on Ravelry, this pattern. I'll link it below. And I'm knitting this with my own yarn. The gray is slate, and the minis are my Arctic Sunset mini set, and I've gotten this far on the last pattern. And the thing is, it says in the pattern that you need 2 skeins, and not entirely 2 skeins, but I ran out of slate when I've gotten this far, so I needed a 3rd skein. So I dyed up some more slate, and that means there will be some slate in the shop on Sunday. The other work in progress I'm going to show you is something I feel like everybody has knit one of these. It's the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry, and I'm professional, so I'm in the middle of a row. As you can see, mine isn't as colorful as many of the others. It's a subtle, almost tonal effect, but I think this is going to be really pretty when it's finished. The Progress Keeper is a gift from my friend Sue in Canada, and as you can see, I'm knitting the part where it's straight on one side. This pattern is almost mindless, I would say. You have to keep an eye on it, but it's fun to knit, and I think it goes along really fast. The yarn I'm using, maybe I should tell you about the yarn I'm using. The main color, I'm only using 2 colors. This is the main color. It's one of mine. It's a one of a kind. This is Chaotic Evil. I only had 3 skeins. This is one of them. Somebody bought one of them, and so I have 1 skein left in the shop. And this is the contrast color. It's a Sauberball 6-ply, so it's a sport weight, and you can see it has the same effect as Spin Cycle, so it's a budget-friendly alternative to Spin Cycle. They have 2 different. They have 4-ply fingering weight and 6-ply sport weight. And this I bought from an Etsy shop called Kamis Yarns, and I'll link that below. So that's what I've been knitting on. I've done a lot of knitting. There's not much else to do except sleep, cook, eat, knit. That's basically what we're doing these days. Fortunately, both me and hubby are introverts, so we don't mind having to stay at home, but I can feel the cabin fever creeping in, so I'm probably more I like leaving the house occasionally. We are leaving the house about once a week to do grocery shopping, and that's about it. I'm still on my first cup of coffee for the day. I have to record this a bit early in the day so I can get the best possible light, and I keep looking out of the window. It's a bad habit I have. Sorry about that. I lost my train of thought. That's not a surprise, I guess, because everything is a bit strange these days. We're still staying safe and healthy, and hopefully you are too. I have been dying a bit, not a lot, because nothing's going out, so I don't want to put a lot of stuff into the shop. I can show you what I have dyed. Some of this I think I showed you last week, but I've dyed up some silver lining. I'll put in a picture of what the socks look like when you knit a pair of socks in this. And this is on my Polldale sock. I've made some sock sets of mixed tape. 50 gram skein of mixed tape and a 20 gram skein of turquoise as the mini. So this is enough for 1 pair of socks if you knit the cuff, heel and toe in turquoise. and I dropped the turquoise on the floor. I'll get it later. And I've also dyed up some. I showed you a 50-gram gradient of this, and I've knit up and I've dyed up some 20-gram mini sets in Arctic Sunset. And when I did the Arctic Sunset, the orange was a bit stubborn, so I dyed up a one of a kind, a mop-up skein really, to exhaust all the dye in the water. So it looks a bit like bloody orange, but there's a bit of I just speckled it with different colors afterwards to make it a little bit more exciting than just a tonal orange. And I figured out because I really craved some bright colors, and we are doing the 80s theme these days. I dyed up a mini set of bright 80s inspired colors, and I didn't know what to call this, and then my good friend Sue in Canada, Crafts-Knit7, suggested neon lights, and so these minis will go really well with my both 80s kids and mixtape, and all of these will make a nice pop on a pair of socks. And you could of course use them together, for example in the Solaris shawl. So that's that. And of course we have the slate. I have 3 skeins of this going into the shop. It's a nice tonal grey, and as I was saying last time, it's my rock garden but without the flowers. So that's that, and that's the things. All those things are going into the shop on Sunday at 8 o'clock Central Eastern Standard Time, or now it's Central Eastern Summertime, because we have turned the clock forward 1 hour. And more live stuff. Well, one thing that's actually a good thing about this outbreak and the social distancing and everything is that there's a lot happening online. So people are putting up virtual knit nights and virtual quiz nights. And the last thing is a really good thing for me and hubby, because we are going to quiz nights every week, and now we have the opportunity to do quizzes, virtual quizzes online, and that's great fun for us. And because people are putting up these virtual knit nights, I get to actually go to virtual knit nights with my bestie Sue in Canada, because if you do a virtual knit night on Zoom, I can join in, even though it's, because of the time difference, it's afternoon, late afternoon where I am, and it's early in the day for them. So I'm really thankful that they have the opportunity to do this early in the day, so I can join in. So that's one of the good things about, and I get a lot of knitting done. But I suppose we are all getting a lot of knitting done these days. I have I was talking about my dream knitting last time, the Daydreamer. I want to cast that on, but I haven't decided on the color yet. I need 6 skeins of sport weight to knit that sweater in my size, and I want to be 100% sure what color I want before I dye up the yarn. But I also have a sweater to finish for my husband. I also have my East Coast girl to finish, and that's practically in hibernation, because I have a serious case of Castonitis lately, so I'm always casting on something new. And I think I'm going to cast on a pair of socks today, of course, because I haven't got enough projects on the needles. But the crazy sock lady came out with a new pattern that I can't remember the name of the top of my head, but it's a pattern where you combine self-striping with a solid, and you get this really nice effect when you knit it up. And I have a lot of self-striping sock yarn because I've been hoarding that, so I'm going to find myself a nice skein of self-striping, and I think I'm going to use black as the main color, and you'll see next time what they look like. And this is going to be sort of a short episode because there's not a lot happening, and I've been sort of monogamous with my knitting. I always have at least 2 or 3 projects sitting next to me on the couch, so when I get bored of one, I just pick up another one. And my hands are sort of complaining when I use bigger needles, so I have it's going okay now because I'm not using big needles for anything I'm knitting, but anything over a 3.5 I struggle after a bit, so then it's nice having a pair of socks or something. And I also have crochet sitting next to me these days, but I haven't been crocheting a lot. I'm crocheting a shawl, the Lost in Time shawl, and I'm also doing a granny stripe blanket, but that has been sitting without me touching it for ages. And that's about it. I hope everyone is having a nice Easter, even though it's the Easter holiday doesn't make much of a difference because we're staying at home anyway. So, but enjoy your Easter. I hope you all stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you again next Friday. Bye bye.